Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is Sunday, August 18th. Inter Miami hasn't played since Tuesday night. We're in a little bit of a weird spot. I'm your host, Scotty Grays. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. How are you feeling tonight, man?
I'm feeling good. It seems, as always, it feels weird not being without Inter Miami games during the week. So it's a bit of a lull. I find myself doing nothing on the weekends. Thankfully, Premier League is back, so we had a few games today. But it's always worse when you lose a game and then you don't have another game straight after to try and make up for it. So the waiting game is going to be long, and I can't wait for Cincinnati game to be right around the corner. But other than that, all good in my end, man. How are you?
I'm feeling better. I was at a particularly low point on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday when we did the post-game show, which is the last time we went live and talked. I felt disappointed and sad and frustrated, and I just wasn't. It just was one of those like mood killers for me, and certainly Wednesday, Thursday was tough, and then the Premier League started, and European soccer sort of hit full force this first week, and sort of a few days away from Inter Miami, I think made me feel better. And now I'm in a much better headspace. I do think we have a big game, and I want to talk about that. But before we do, let's just, cut to the chase. This is the plan for tonight. We went ahead and spoke with Yannick Bright yesterday, and we have that interview coming up, and we're going to, play it for you guys in the next few minutes. But we wanted to start with a little bit of just soul searching, where we're at with Inter Miami, how we're feeling about the team. We've, like I said, this was therapeutic for me to get a few days off, and I wanted to see where you were at and talk a little bit about what we see going forward. We have another week or 6 days until our next game, and that next game is a big one. And so before we get to Yannick Bright, I want to, just like set the groundwork for where we're at as a team, where we're at as a fan base, how we're feeling about Tata Martino, how we're feeling about our midfield, how we're feeling about still probably not getting Lionel Messi back for a few more weeks. I mean, what part of this is sort of catching your attention? What's on your mind, Saur? Talk to me.
I don't know if we're ready to have that Tata conversation yet. I feel like a lot of Inter Miami fans are still quite fuming at Tata Martino and his decision-making. The Cincinnati game is going to be really, really big because it's going to determine where we finish in the league standings, and it's going to be a 6-point swing. So if we win that, that's so huge. And I think for the team morale as well, it's going to be really important to try and go and win that game and just recover that 6-1 loss that we had last time around. Tata out, Saur in. I would love to coach Inter Miami if I had the credentials, cynical. Unfortunately, I don't think I am anywhere near the level of any of the elite coaches. I am merely a bozo talking in a podcast with another one of my friends who's a bozo as well. So
I'm not a bozo. I'm a knucklehead. Let's get it straight here.
We just need to get that straight. But no, I agree with you. I think everyone's looking forward to the Yannick Bright interview. We had a really good chat, as you guys will see. But overall, I do think, yes, we lost a game, but we have the main trophy to play for. And at the end of the day, if we end up winning the MLS Cup towards the end of the season and that's all we win, I think that's going to be good enough for this team.
Not to bring us back down, but the next round of the Leagues Cup did happen over the last couple of days, and things got easier for Inter Miami. And so if we were able to beat Columbus, it would have been a really nice, fun, simple path to the finals. We would have had to play at New York City FC, which I think would have been good because even if you don't win that game, you get to play in the playground, which is Yankee Stadium, and that would have been good for us to have that experience going into our matchup at Yankee Stadium later on. And then we would have ended up getting Philadelphia in the semifinal, would have in all likelihood beaten them, even though it was on the road. And then we would have played either Colorado or LAFC. LAFC is very good. Colorado, if they make it to the final, we would have played them at home. They were the only other MLS team we would play at home. So just as the results came in, it was more and more frustrating because it was right there for us.
What makes you look at this Inter Miami team and think that we're gonna make it easy for ourselves? When have we ever made it easy for ourselves? I know it's an easier run on paper, but I felt like this Inter Miami team would have found a way to just make it so hard to win. And it feels like, yes, we might have beaten Columbus. That was, if in another universe, maybe. Then we go to New York FC and Tata Martino's probably going to put out a 5-6 attack midfield, and we're going to end up conceding again. So I don't know at this point who we can beat and who we cannot beat.
Well, that's going to be a really interesting game because, especially that pregame show, when we're talking about that matchup in the small stadium that is Yankee Stadium, the Mickey Mouse Field, and how that affects who gets to play and, you know, how much athleticism you need to cover in the midfield. Like, that'll be really interesting when we get to that. And that could have been, you know, yesterday.
Do you think that's the game where my 7-2 prediction comes true? It's still pending. It's going to happen this season.
No. It's a 0-0. That's a 0-0-1-0 kind of game for sure. But maybe not. I mean,
unless Matas Rojas decides to just shoot from the midway point and, you know, score hat trick, that might be a way to get that 7-2.
That game is on September 21st, so just over a month from now. My prediction is that Messi doesn't play until the following game on September 28th. And so I don't know. I think Messi in the playground would be really fun, but I don't know. We'll see.
At this point, Messi genuinely feels like a FIFA card that you can only use at certain points during the season, doesn't it? I feel like we've obviously played more games without Messi. And at this point, I think we have to rely we can't rely on him as much as we need to. So that's a shame, but I can't wait for him to be back in the playoffs, man. It's going to be so huge for this team.
Yeah, I was going through some of his highlights a couple of days ago from earlier in the season, and it's just like, man, what a presence to just not have. And even us, we were talking about how can Inter Miami survive without Lionel Messi? How can we get enough points to compete for the Supporter Shield without Lionel Messi? How can we win a few games without Lionel Messi? And of course, the team has made it look relatively easy. The only two real losses in that time frame came against three: Cincinnati, Columbus, and Tigres, which are the three best teams that we faced, and two of them were down to the wire games, right? Decided in the last 10 minutes. So,
and absolutely no shame in losing to that Columbus team. Honestly, like the more I think about it, I feel like we gave a good account of ourselves. 100% could have been better, and some decision making in game should have been better. But you know, at the end of the day, they are the reigning MLS Cup champions. They are the better team at this point in time in terms of where they are. But I would rather peak at the right time than peak early and then finish really flat. So we'll see.
Just before we move on, because I have one more thing I want to talk about, but Emerald says that Ian Frey is playing with the second team tonight, and I hope it's as a right back. If it's as a center back, I would be pretty disappointing, I think, in my head. Actually, two more things I want to talk about. One, the transfer window closed last Wednesday night, and of course, Inter Miami didn't sign anyone. They can still sign people in free agency, but that player has to already be a free agent. And so there are free agents out there. Inter Miami has an international roster slot. They have a senior roster slot. They have cap space. They chose to go with 2 DPs and 4 U22. So they got some allocation money from that decision. So they could still add a player, but they have 3.5 weeks to do that. So we don't have any information on that tonight. And then lastly, the last 2 minutes of our podcast on Wednesday night, it was starting to be reported that Mauricio Pochettino was going to be the next U.S. men's national team coach. And of course, the U.S. men's national team is my, first love as a soccer team. And that was really exciting. But then I started hearing about how much Mauricio Pochettino loved Conor Gallagher last year at Chelsea. And you know what player in Inter Miami kind of reminds me of Conor Gallagher?
Benjamin Kramaski.
Yeah. So I don't know how likely it is that Kramaski makes that 2026 World Cup roster, but I think Pochettino is going to make sure he brings guys that are playing. So guys like Tyler Adams, guys like Gio Reyna, who have gotten a lot of midfield spots or opportunities in the midfield because of who they are and their relationship with Greg Berhalter, maybe won't. And maybe some guys that are playing a lot, like Inter Miami's Benjamin Kramaski, might get some opportunities to impress. And of course, this is a player that the Federation really likes and has spent a lot of time trying to groom and bring into their program. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want one of the Inter Miami players to go out and play for the U.S. men's national team, especially when it's Benjamin Kramaski, right? I think he has a little bit of more growing to do, but as soon as he gets to that next level of athleticism, and I think as soon as he gets to the Diego Gomez level, I don't think he's going to be stopped. He's going to be so good. So,
and let me remind you, he's 2 years younger than Diego Gomez. So
there's still time. There's still time to grow. It doesn't feel like that, does it? But anyways,
it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we get down to business? It feels like it's time.
I think the viewers and the listeners are getting a bit restless, so we should definitely get into our interview with Yannick Bright.
Okay, I have one disclaimer, and that's for everyone that's listening to this after the fact on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to this after the fact. There are a couple moments where we brought up a few plays and had him, talk about what he was seeing on those plays. One was the assist versus Philadelphia at the end of the game. One was a steal, interception, and then hockey assist during the Puebla game. And so I apologize that you're not going to be able to see the play while he's talking about it, but those are the two moments that we brought him up. But anyways, let's do it. And we're joined by Inter Miami midfielder Yannick Bright. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to just start by asking, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling about life? How are you feeling about Inter Miami right now?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you and Saur for having me here. Been watching this podcast for a while now, so thank you for having me. And feel good. I think obviously the moral right now is not really great. Winning the Leagues Cup was one of our goals, and obviously, unfortunately, we fell short. But the bigger trophy that we want to win is the MLS, and it's all there, and we just got to take it.
Yeah, and we'll all be right behind you. But let's rewind a little bit and get some of the backstory, because we have this opportunity to talk to you. I have wanted to know this for a long time. I have been watching drafts, whether it's American football, basketball, baseball, and more recently the MLS for my whole life. And I've always been curious about what the process is from the player's perspective heading into their draft selection. And Inter Miami drafted you in the middle of the teens, in the middle of the first round. But did you know that there was a really good chance that Inter Miami was going to take you? Did you have a good relationship with them? Did you know that, or was it just a complete surprise?
It's a complete surprise. And honestly, even at the combine, I haven't talked to Miami at all. So coming up to the draft, when Miami was up, I was like, imagine if I get to play with them, you know what I mean? And then they called out my name, and I just went crazy. It was a crazy feeling. But
so that was the first moment.
Yes, yeah. You could see it from my reaction, honestly. Like I was surprised. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. You know what I mean? So that was amazing.
I'm surprised to hear that, because I thought going into the offseason, we needed a number 6. We let Dixon Arroyo leave in free agency, and we had Gregory, but there was a lot of rumors that he was maybe not going to be able to stay with the team because of MLS roster rules. And so I think it made a lot of sense to get a 6. And I thought Inter Miami was probably targeting you, and based on how you performed, they probably thought they got an absolute gem. So I am surprised to hear that, but I think that probably makes it more exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Greg, first of all, great guy. I met him when we went to Saudi. It was just a baller, you know what I mean? It was a great guy too. I feel like it was a good glue for the team, you know what I mean? He was keeping everybody together. So I wish him the best. Obviously, we still talk sometimes. So yeah, shout out to Greg, and obviously, like I said, it was a surprise, but I mean, now that I'm here, first, like, looking at the team, I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, you know what I mean? Because Greg leaving, and obviously there's Boosie, but like maybe having somebody behind them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, I can learn a lot from him, so that was great.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised that you said that, because I just would have thought they were laser focused on you, because they've been so good at finding young midfielders, and you have been a star. You came into the preseason tour. Not everyone that was drafted was on that tour, but you were, and you got some minutes in East Asia. I think you got a little bit of time as an 8. You got a game as a 6, and then you came back home for that Newell's Old Boys game and got to start as a 6. Me and Saur watched those games, and we were pouring over them because we are the diehards, and we clearly saw something in you. We saw their talent, the positioning, the things that were really intriguing for us, and we thought this team could really use. But then we didn't see you for a while. It takes you a little while to get signed. Even once you get signed, you get the Red Bulls game, you get the NYCFC game, but then even then, it's a little while till you get really into the team. What was it like going from a guy that was a draft player to someone that was actually able to get minutes in Tata's eyes? What did the coaching staff want from you? What did they want to see you improve on? What was sort of the process of earning their trust behind the scenes so that you could become the player that they would put on the field?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. You come in this team of legends and you're a draft pick. So, but obviously, yeah, like coming in, it wasn't easy. I had to prove myself. Day in, day out. You miss once and you might be out for a week or two. You know what I mean? Every time you go down, you gotta show up and show off. So it takes time, obviously. I didn't get signed right away because there was some FIFA regulations going on, and Miami had to pay the teams back home. So I ended up missing the first 6 games of the season, all the way up to Red Bulls, which was obviously terrible. But I think we learned from that. We learned from that. And then, yeah, obviously, it hasn't been easy. The coaching staff, I think, they wanted from me what I was doing in college. So just, winning everything in the midfield. Like I said in my introduction interview, I win everything. My goal is to win everything. The more I win, the more I get pumped up. So I like tackles. I like interceptions. I like physical duels. I like all this kind of stuff. And obviously, it's not, they didn't get me to be the next Busquets, because I don't think there's ever going to be a next Busquets. But obviously, the fact that he's here, he can help me out, in kind of completing my style of play. And obviously, yeah, I think I learned quite a bit so far, even positioning wise, like you guys said, positioning wise, and thought process. He explains me what he thinks, and we go through some situations, and he tells me what he thinks and like what he positions himself, and I think he helped me so far in my development.
Is there a specific aspect of your game that you think you've taken a big step in from when you first got drafted to sort of now that you've blossomed into a real member of the team?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever watched one of my games in New Hampshire, but our style of play was not really quite tiki-taka,
Yeah.
It was all ball in the channels, and, we win the ball up high in the field. So I think going from that style of play to a style of play where the 6 is always involved, it was a big responsibility, even at Vancouver. I remember Vancouver because Boosie wasn't there, Luis wasn't there, and Leo wasn't there. So, and the game plan was to make me play, I was the free man, I had to play, and it was a big responsibility. And I'm not going to lie, like at the end of the day, soccer players are just normal people. So I went through all the, insecurities that you may think of, like I was like, oh my God, they expect me to be the next Busquets, like they expect me to play like him. And I think a lot of help I got it from Leo Campana too, because we've been talking a lot. He's a great guy. He's been talking to me since preseason, and he told me like, you're not Busquets. Like they're not gonna expect from you what Busquets does. So I think that helped me, put me a little more like on the ground. It was like, okay, like I can do this. You know what I mean? And then from there, it was just like, going to training and working on the things I had to work on, and improve on those aspects.
So, as Scotty mentioned, we've seen you go from being this key bench player who comes on in the second half to try and shore up the defense, see the game out, and your interceptions speak for themselves. You've been doing a fantastic job at that. And now you're a key linchpin in the midfield as well. And you've played against some of the toughest teams in the MLS in recent months. You played against Columbus, Cincinnati, Red Bulls as well. Who has been for you the hardest opponent that you've faced in the recent games that you've played? Because whether it's that one individual player that you saw on the pitch and you're like, boy, this guy's giving me a lot of trouble. And what was your thought process like when you go through those moments in game where you're like, oh, this opposition is really, really tough to play against. And how am I going to, adjust myself tactically? How am I going to make those changes positionally? What does your mindset go through when you do that, when you see someone who's playing really well against you?
I think obviously the toughest game I faced so far was Cincy, for obvious reasons.
We don't
and I think
remember
the
that
toughest-
game. We don't remember.
We
that
don't want to
game.
talk about that game, but we want to talk about Acosta because I think Acosta was fucking unreal. It was unreal. It was so quick that even like I try to like do my tackles like I usually do them, but it would move the ball like so fast at the last second, last 0.5 seconds, and I would foul him. And I was like, wow, this guy's fast, So I think that was the hardest game, but obviously we play them again, and I can't wait to face him again. If I can play, if I will play, I feel like I wanna show everybody that I can take him, and that's what the mentality should be.
Yeah, but when you're going through that in the game, are you like, okay, this guy is just too good for me to stop, or were you trying to make a few changes to be like, okay, I might give him a little bit of a push, get him off balance, or make a tactical foul, trying to adjust it?
Yeah, I tried, and obviously, just because he's good doesn't mean that I'm not gonna try to take him down. I think obviously, like even tactically, they were, they just won the game. They just won the game, and but obviously the fact that it was good, didn't stop me from tackling, from trying to, take him down. I got the ball from him quite a few times. So yeah, I mean, my thought process when I feel like they were coming at us was, okay, how do I cover space? Because these kind of players, they always try to look for the passing behind or like the combinations. So I would look around and see where the closest man was, and just trying to cut that pass in order to make it simple to pass it to another person. You know what I mean? And obviously, as a 6, you got to cover the middle. So you try to cover the middle and not let anything get through.
A couple games before that, you guys played Nashville, and it felt like your job was to just harass and man mark Hani Mukhtar for much of that game. And you could tell he was getting more and more frustrated, and you did an incredible job, and he was taking himself out of the game, and that was incredible to see. And so when we went into that Cincinnati game, we thought, okay, just put Bright on Lucho and it'll be fine. Like he's got it. But certainly we saw Lucho started the game actually in the first 5 minutes, and it felt like that's exactly what you were doing. And then he started getting wide and started finding new spaces, and it felt like, wow, we do not have the vision to handle this in the right way. Is that sort of how it happened, or was it a different game plan for that game versus against what you guys did versus Nashville, or was it just one of those days?
Well, I think you were right. Obviously, the game plan with Nashville was, me on Mokhtar, and Mokhtar is a good player too. But I feel like the difference between the two is getting away from me where they were going. Because Mokhtar would drop, and get the ball like really low down the field. And that kind of took him out of the game, you know what I mean? While Acosta was just moving on the side. And, that made it, obviously I couldn't follow Acosta all the way on the side. Mm-hmm. So after a little bit, I would just leave him. And that's where I think with the wing back, I don't remember what his name is, Assad or something. I think that's where they started. That's where he started to play more and he found more spaces. but yeah, I mean, I think you got it right. Mukhtar dropped down and kind of got out of the game, and Acosta went farther on the side, and that's where he found more spaces to play.
Yeah, this is really fascinating because we get to now hear your perspective and see the game from your tactical perspective. But one thing that I really wanted to ask you is, when you've watched football all your life, right? Is there a specific league or a play style or a team that you really like to follow outside of Inter Miami? Do you follow the Premier League, the Italian style? Of course, you've grown up in Italy playing football. So what influences your style of play the most is what I would love to know from you.
Well, I feel like growing up, I watched a lot of professional football, but not the way you may think of it. I just watched it to like just enjoy it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because if I tell you that my favorite team is and has always been, obviously besides AC Milan, that's my team, but like I've always followed Barcelona. You know what I mean? Even when Messi was there, and it was like I saw them playing, and I was like, damn, imagine if I can play like that. You know what I mean? Like that tiki taka style. Imagine if I was in there. But obviously, it's not my style of game. I just watch it just because it's amazing to watch. And but yeah, I think player that I looked up to. I'm gonna surprise on this one. I feel like, but for a while it's been Pogba. Pogba, great, great, great. I absolutely love Pogba. I was like, is the perfect mix between a destroyer and somebody who can like just take people 1v1, dribble.
Can I ask you
Wow.
about a player in MLS that, you mentioned that Vancouver game, and I thought, oh my God, Yannick Bright could be that for us for the next 10 years. And that's Darlington Nagbe, who's one of the best midfielders in MLS history in terms of his career. And of course, recently I've realized that we're probably not going to get you for 10 years. And that makes me sad. But
We'll see.
what does it mean to you to like have that sort of a comparison? Because, Pogba and Manchester United and Juventus and, Busquets at Barcelona, like guys like that are the very top of the game. But when you talk about people talking about you and they're saying, hey, I think he can be one of the best midfielders this league's ever had. I think he has a similar style. I think he can grow to be even better. What is it like to hear that? And I'm sure those types of comments have come more frequently over the last couple of months. What is that
From
like?
us as well.
Well, first of all, I'm honored, but I've always been somebody, who thinks like I haven't done anything so far. So obviously I can't deserve that title. And I feel like that kind of pushes me to do more, like just prove more and what I can do. So I'm honored because Nagbe is a great player, but I still think I can be compared to him.
I will say, I think you've outplayed him in 2 times you've gone up against him. But can we talk some ball? Is that good for everyone?
Let's do it.
I have a couple clips from you this season, and I was hoping that you could break down why you were where you were, give us the sense of what you were seeing on this play, why you positioned yourself where you are, because I think your positioning has been one of your most standout traits. And talk us through this play for what it means as an X and O's play. So let me pull something up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this an exciting play, one of the best moments of the season, and talk us through this one.
All right. Yeah. Do you want to pause it, or you want me to just talk on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So start from the beginning. Yeah, obviously we were defending 9 men, so it was more of a question of like area, like zone, like where do we defend? People picking people in the box. I see now in the box it was like I think it was a 4v3 back there, and I was kind of in no man's land, but I was trying to cover that guy. I think that's Leo or Franco, I don't remember. So yeah, I was there. You can play now. And then when the ball steps up, I try to step up and I cover that pass. I intercept it because I saw his eye. I watch people, like I watch the players and to see where they look for the pass and stuff. And I saw him looking behind me, and I just intercepted it, and at that point it was just a matter of like for me, I knew Leo was running behind me because I saw him kind of behind me trying to intercept the ball, and then at that point it was just a matter of like running away from people. But then I remember I was like, wait, Leo's running, so I honestly threw it there. I didn't know what it was. I was like, I hope he's there. I hope he gets it on the feet. But it ended up being a perfect through ball. So I'm glad.
So that was your Hail Mary moment.
Yeah. That was like, all right, there's 4 minutes left. We're down 2 players. I know Leo is there. I just gotta get away from these players and then try to pass it to him. So that was kind of my thought process over there.
Can I just say that feels like the type of play that kids dream about making in their, when they're playing with their friends and stuff.
Sure.
But, that's what makes great players is that they actually pull that off.
I will say when I was watching that play in real time and I saw you intercept the ball, brilliant interception, and then you ran to the sideline and I was like, oof, he's done great here, but he's cornered himself because there were 3 players around you. And when you popped that ball out, I was like, oh. That was, I think, one of the moments where I thought to myself that I've always seen you as a sort of a destroyer, as someone who gets in the right positions and stops, but your passing range sort of showcased at that point in time. And when you say you sort of threw a Hail Mary, what a Hail Mary to throw as well.
Yeah, what a Hail Mary. I knew Leo was there. I'm just glad it was the perfect through ball because you never know. I didn't know where the last defender was. If it was a bit closer, maybe it would have been different, but it is what it is.
This is one from a little bit more recently, but I think is more in the run of play. Obviously, that last one in Philadelphia, you're down to 9 men. It's sort of a desperate situation, and you kind of pull something out of nothing. But this one, much more in the run of the play, much more what you're trying to get out of this game. You are higher up the pitch. That's part of the game plan early in the game. And then this happens. Walk us through this one.
Yeah. So we lose the ball. The defender gets it. And they were playing with a 4-4-2 right now, 4-4-1-1. And at the beginning of the play, you can see the attacking center behind me. So I knew it was behind me. And, if they found another outlet of pass, like that midfielder next to the referee, it would have been hard for me to just get up. But obviously I would have been a little late, but, cover the pass, like I said earlier. But I knew that was the guy behind me. So like I said earlier, I watched the defender looking behind me, and that kind of gave me a hint of where he wanted to go. And I took that half step. You see the man behind me, and I took that half step on my left, and I intercepted it. And then from there, it's all a matter of playing it forward. And from that touch, the easiest pass for me, the easiest outlet was Robert on the side, and I passed it to him, and then Mati scored a banger. So I'm glad.
Can I ask you a question? You get the interception, and then you say the easiest pass was out wide to Robert Taylor. Is that like he's going to be out there because of the pattern of play, because of what you guys are doing? Or is that I intercept and I look up and I just see him and I get it wide because I know he's a good player?
Yeah, when you play, you really have 0.5 seconds to think and to look at. Obviously, I touched it, I intercepted it, and right there, I had 0.5 seconds, and it was all a matter of adjusting my body to pass it as bad as I could to Robert. But obviously, playing 4-3-3, you know that there's a player out there, and I looked up real quick, and I saw him, and I passed it to him.
That's awesome. My last question about this is, could we just go over like 150 clips from this season and you just have them all memorized? Or are these like some of your favorite ones?
I have all of them memorized. I've watched the game back, I think 2 or 3 times every time. So, that's part of getting better. Watch where you make mistakes and watch the things you do well, and, keep doing them or try and avoid them.
Awesome. Okay, let's get into some fun questions because you're on the inside, so you can provide that for us.
Yeah.
My first question is, who's the biggest prankster on the team? Who's the funniest guy on the team? And Where do you rank on that hierarchy?
I love Jordi. I love Jordi. Jordi is really fun guy. Jordi's really fun guy, and he comes to training every day with with the smile, which I love, and every day is just fun day. So I love Jordi, and I'm more of like a low key type of guy. I'm always with my boys, Noah and Leo, but yeah, like and Ian Frey, Ian. We're the FNs. I love those
from me
guys.
and Frey.
I love those guys, and but yeah, I think Jordi's is the funniest. Is the funniest.
I think Ian Frey is the next player that we'd like to get on the podcast. So if you could put in a word, that'd be really helpful.
I'll try.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, or not seriousness, but I'd love to know what your pre-game ritual looks like. So like before game starts, I know whether you're a veteran of the game who's played thousands and thousands, who's played the Champions League final, or whether you're a rookie who's in his first year, nerves are always a thing, right? So what do you do before the game? I'm sure the fans would love to know your pre-match ritual, the music you listen to, and get us an insight into that.
I like to get hyped up before the game, so I don't really listen to like chill music. I listen to Italian drill, French drill, those kind of songs, because they need to get me in the mood of like winning everything. Like if there's one winner, that's got to be me. So I like to listen to that. Eat pasta, obviously. Lot of pasta because I need energy to run. And then when I get to the field, just eat some kind of peanut butter jelly and fruit type of snack, and then when we're in the locker room, get a little gel. It's called carb gel, and just some extra carbs, and then little prayer before going out, and that's it.
Oh, it's working so far, and I'm sure it's going to keep working for the rest of your career.
I hope so.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question. When the draft ended, I got in contact with someone that follows and covers college soccer, and I asked him about these four guys, and he told me Inter Miami got a gem, and that I should really look out for this guy Ryan Carmichael. And I wanted to ask you, what's it like with the other three guys that are drafted? I know Afonso and you have sort of claimed first team spots, but you with those guys and you with some of the other young guys, is it all just sort of a collection of groups, or do you with those three guys feel some sort of bond?
We're all bonded. Like we're all bonded realistically. Like we went through the same process, and I think it's a matter of opportunities, and they'll get their opportunity soon, I'm sure. But yeah, I think we're all friends. We talk every day. We play video games. I play video games with Ryan, so we're calm. We're chill. We're all friends. We share the same things. We used to share the same car for a while, because I was here with no car, and then I had to buy one. So I was sharing that car with them. So they're great friends, and they'll get their opportunity soon.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done so well over these last few months. I'm sure you've got a ton of advice on how to handle yourself as a first team Inter Miami player, how to handle yourself as a starter. But what's the best advice that you've been given so far in your career, whether it's from someone from Inter Miami or whoever? But we'd love to know what the best advice that's really helped you in your career so far.
Obviously, I know it sounds a little silly to say, but like in a locker room like this, to just not talk and just to listen and watch. There's so many things you can learn, like even from not just those guys. Even from Drake, DeAndre that was there, Greg that was there. I learned so many things, so many what they eat, what they do before a game, how they relax, because there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of nerve, and relaxation, I think is really important. So Like, what do you learn from them? Like, what do they do at the gym? How they keep their bodies healthy? A lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to learn, and the more you learn, I think the better you'll do. So I think I've always kept myself to the standard where I would not say anything. I would just ask questions and see how people do or people act, and learn from that. And that's, I think, is the biggest advice I could give anybody.
I have one more question, and I hope we can end on this one. I am a big Inter Miami fan, obviously, but my first love in soccer was the U.S. men's national team. And I just want to ask you, are you U.S. eligible? And is that something you'd be interested in doing at some point? Maybe not in September, but at some point over the next couple of years.
I am not U.S. eligible, but
heartbreaking.
I'm trying to get my green card because I really like the United States, and we'll see how it goes. You never know how it goes. But obviously, playing for I'm also have my dad is from Ivory Coast, so I could play there, I guess. But you never know. You never know.
We got to get you that citizenship first, man.
Yeah. Playing for the US would be a dream, obviously. So
we love to see you on the international stage one day for sure. I think you deserve to be there.
I hope so. There's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of work to do. So, but it's it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yannick, thank you so much for being with us. We have taken up enough of your time. I'm sure you got to get back to the film room or the training pitch or whatever it takes to be as good as you have been. So thank you so much for being here and entertaining us and telling us some fun stories and talking ball with us. And we hope to have you again sometime, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I'll probably hop on some other time.
That'll be wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Till next time. That was pretty cool, man.
What can we say? I think we've peaked.
Yeah, that might be it. I was thinking, what other questions do I wish I asked him? And the one that came to mind is, and I'm very curious about this, is what do people on the practice field call the three Leos? And how do they distinguish between each? Because he called Leo Campana, he called Leo Alfonso, Leo. And I imagine, Lionel Messi is, Leo. So I wonder if there's ever confusion on, how they call everyone on the field. But
just like thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, like Leo 1, Leo 2, Leo 3. That's how I assume it will go on the training pitch. But
yes,
good question for next time. Hopefully, whenever he comes back, if he does, then we need to answer this question for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you again to Yannick for doing that for us. It was an honor, a pleasure, and I thought it was a good conversation. A little bit of something for everyone if you're a real tactico, seeing how he views plays, seeing how he finds himself in the right position, how he knows when to make the lunge, when to make the reach for the interception. I thought that was really cool. If you want to know about inside Inter Miami, learning about Jordi Alba being sort of the smiles of the party every day in practice. And
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm not really surprised by that either. But so I thought it was good. And I again just want to say thank you, Yannick, for
he was so gracious with his time. So thank you so much for him for coming on. And it was a great experience listening from the horse's mouth himself, and we got some really good insights about Inter Miami. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that.
Okay, so what did we learn? Let's talk about what we learned.
We learned that he's the best number 6 in the league, and he's going to be staying at Inter Miami for more than 10 years. That's what we learned.
We started off asking about the draft, and we had the number 3 pick in the draft, and we traded down. And so a part of me has always thought, like, they kind of got lucky picking Yannick Bright, or at least lucky that he emerged to be as good as he was, because if they saw this coming, they certainly would have just taken him at number 3 and made sure they got him. But the fact that they didn't have that relationship beforehand really surprised me, because we give so much credit to Chris Henderson and the staff for going out and finding these types of players, and they did it. And yet it feels like, happenstance, but a lucky one for us.
Yeah, imagine being Yannick Bright in that situation, man, thinking that you're potentially going to get picked for a team, hopefully, but that team turning out to be Inter Miami. And he mentioned that he was completely oblivious to the fact that Inter Miami was going to pick him. And from going from playing at the college level at New Hampshire to now playing with the likes of Sergio Busquets and Lionel Messi overnight must be an absolute dream come true. So I was very surprised that there wasn't a prior intimation about him actually joining Inter Miami, but we got so lucky, and I'm glad that Chris Henderson decided to make this decision of bringing him along.
Yeah, and then sort of along the same lines, we heard early on when we first drafted him that he might start out as a right back and play some sort of fullback for Inter Miami, and I guess that kind of made sense because all we had was DeAndre Yedlin at the time. But based on who he was in college, and as he mentioned, his thing was, let me just win the ball. And so now, like, thinking through all of these things in retrospect, I'm surprised that anyone mentioned him as a right back, because that dude is born to play as a number 6. But yeah, what from you? What stood out to you? What did you want to?
Yeah, I think for me, his comment about the coaching staff not wanting him to be the next Busquets, but being the Yannick Bright, the first Yannick Bright that this team has. The reason that we find him so unique and so important to this team is he's the profile that we don't have in any other player. And the fact that he's the only one who offers what he offers is astonishing considering where we are as a team. So it's interesting to see that we don't necessarily have a starter caliber player or a superstar in that position, and they brought him on to do that job. So they must have seen something really, really good in his game to be like, what, if we need to adopt that style of play, if we need to go to having a number 6 destroyer in the midfield, we can turn to him because we trust him and his skills to be able to do that for the team. So a great vote of confidence from the coaching staff for sure. But it's interesting to see how the player's mind thinks, because he mentioned the Vancouver game and being the sole midfielder who's running the show in the middle. And I think that was the one game where he emerged for this Inter Miami team and was sort of his breakout game for us. So kudos to him for believing in himself and having the confidence to go out and showcase what he does best.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of that Vancouver game, it wasn't his first start, but it was his first start in a while, and it was his first start when we had a lot of the guys available, and it was his first start as like, you are our number 6, win the midfield for us and make sure that we don't lose this game by giving up 3 goals. And I remember after that game, we spent the entire time talking about how he changes the entire structure of the team, and it makes us a much better, more sound structured team going, defensively, which allows our high quality players. And in that game, it was Campana and Robert Taylor to get ahead and score goals. And, you think forward, that was the strategy for much of the last 2 months when Lionel Messi's been gone and Suarez has been gone during the Copa America. Play well, play structured, play defensively sound, and our goals per game allowed, plummeted. And it was because Yannick Bright was in the midfield. And even when he wasn't starting in the game, over the last 8 or 9 games, he didn't start twice, and Tata had to bring him in at halftime because we needed him in the midfield. So it all started at that Vancouver game, and I think that was a good tidbit from him.
Yeah. Then obviously we had the question about who's given him the most difficulty in a game. And I wasn't necessarily surprised by his answer, but it was a really interesting insight into how he explained the process. Because, yeah, we all know Cincinnati is a great team, but what makes Lucho Acosta the player that he is, right? And his explanation of what really what he was struggling to deal with during the game was really, really fascinating for me. And Lucho Acosta is an absolute beast of a player. So I'm not even surprised that that was the case. But for me, what stood out was that he said he can't wait for the next game. And that's an insight into the mindset of a player, because you could have easily been like, oof, this is a player that's, really difficult to go up against. And he's excited to go up and take that challenge on the next time around. And hopefully he does better and we don't concede 6 goals. But super interesting. And then the juxtaposition between Lucho Acosta and Hani Mukhtar, who are quite similar profiles if you think about it, but his explanation of how they were different in what they were doing and how that changed the dynamic of the midfield, I think was super interesting.
Yeah. The other thing that I took away, and listen, we talked to him for a couple minutes before and a couple minutes after. So, we got to a few more questions in, but one of the things I took away from it, and especially when we went over the film, was he always understands. He always sees what's happening. He looks at people. He sees their eyes. He has that really clear understanding and is going to be able to translate that into commanding other players on where they need to be. And so I know he's 22. I know he's only started, 10, 11 games, something like that. But you can just see him developing into a leader on the field. And then also, as he talks about, Leo Campana helping him, Gregory, DeAndre Yedlin, Drake Calendar, like you imagine that give him another 3 years and he's going to be not only a leader on the field, but a leader in the locker room. I mean, this guy has captain written all over him.
His game IQ is really impressive, because when you pulled up that clip, I thought he'd take a couple of minutes to be like, oh, what game was this and all that. He knew immediately what game it was, what minute in the game it was, what moment in the game it was, what player was where. And he mentioned that he watches the game twice or thrice over. And honestly, if I think about it and compare it to myself, I forget the very next day what happened in the game and what I watched. So even after I do rewatch and come on the podcast, I forget what happened. So for him to be able to just riff off after knowing exactly what happened in the game is really, really impressive. And the way he talks about his positioning, the way he talks about the way moments happened in the game and why they happened was, I think, a fascinating insight into a professional footballer's mind for sure.
Yeah. Anything else from this? Because I want to, answer some of the questions from the chat, because listen, you guys are the reason that any of this is happening. You're the reason we got to meet him. You're the reason we even have this channel and we get to talk about it all. So I was very happy that we got to share that experience with you guys. But before we get to the chat, anything else from that interview you wanted to sort of make?
A big shout out to Anton, who made it manifest, because he mentioned that we should start our own Yannick Bright podcast, and I feel like that's what brought him on. But guys, he listens to this podcast. That's what he said. He's been listening to this podcast for a couple of months now. So everything we discuss here, everything we say about him, you guys say about him, he listens to it. So it's important to uplift players and stuff. But I will say, like, we are going to continue to be very fair in our judgment of how his play style is and whatever. But it was a really, really great experience interviewing him, and I'm so honored that we had the opportunity to do that.
Bright to AC Milan. I will say, after, as we were saying, thank you, I told him, listen, you have to come back on before you get that big money move to the Serie A. So he will before he makes that move. But yeah. And then Nagby got shut down by Yannick Bright. And, I just made an offhanded comment when we were with him, but that was a battle I was really interested in seeing. And I didn't know how much they were going to go head to head just because of the dual 10s that Columbus employs. But especially in this last game, we saw them, face to face a lot. And I agree. I thought Yannick Bright has outplayed Darlington Nagby twice over the last 2 games we played them.
Hey, Wilfred Nancy had to change his midfield and fix things up to, get a result. So he must have done something correct there. That's for sure.
Yannick put Nagby's experience into the dustbin. Steve Munoz, what is Yannick Bright's favorite dish? I think we heard there that is pasta.
Lots of pasta, yeah, lots of pasta.
And then, dude, Jordy being that guy, not a surprise, but also, like, I don't know if he would have been my first guess, but.
Yeah, but like, it just feels like Jordi Alba. Also, he feels like a player who's completely different off the pitch, but once he's on the pitch, he's like an absolute menace for the other team, because the way he switches up, especially in those second half of games, I feel like that's a whole other Jordi Alba that we get to see on the pitch. And then off the pitch, he just seems like a really chill dude. Like, I'd love to be friends and go out on a night out with Jordi Alba, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'd love for him to just come to my place of work on a daily basis to just liven up the mood. But yeah, I don't anything else, man. It was awesome.
One thing Yannick Bright mentioned that he plays games with Leo Afonso and a couple of others, and I'd love to know what games he plays. That's going to be my next question. Yeah, video games where he plays. Maybe he plays FIFA. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
we should do a drive ping FIFA game once.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you, Yannick, for being here. Thank you so much again to everyone that is listening. He was so kind, so generous, and so helpful. And so it was a pleasure talking to him. It was a lot of fun, and he was really kind. So thank you again to him. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there, man. Anything else you want to mention before?
No. Hopefully this is the start of something good. I made an offhanded comment about bringing Ian Frey on, so who knows? Maybe we can get him on sometime. And Julian Gressel, we know he has his own podcast, but we'd love to interview him.
All right. Let's not get a big head here. Let's not get a big head.
We'll see you next week in our regularly scheduled podcast where we discuss all things Inter Miami.
Yes, guys, speaking of our next podcast, we will be back in the midweek. We're going to do some things that we're looking forward to, and we'll talk about any topical news. If there's any free agent signing, which, the Twitter sphere thinks there might be, we'll obviously talk about that. But until then, that's it from us. Guys, we will see you next time, and we hope that you have a wonderful night and a wonderful week. See you then.